All right, so welcome folks to our Google Meet virtual PL session with TESIC. My name is Megan Room. I'm the president of the Technology and Education Special Interest Council. I'm a grade 6 French immersion teacher in CBS, and happy to have you all here this evening. I know we've had a busy first week, and we're into our second week now, and for you to take time out of your schedule to spend your evening learning more to benefit your students. I really applaud you all for doing that. Hopefully we can answer all your questions this evening the best that we can. And I'm here this evening with my co-host, Stacey.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Stacey Hopkins. I am the communication officer for TESIC, and I also am a teacher librarian and student success teacher, so the past program at Learysbrook Junior High in St. John's, in the middle of St. John's. And we're so happy to have you guys here with us this evening. This is part of, I guess, TESIC's virtual PL series. So we're offering over the next 2 weeks sessions on a bunch of different tools, including Read Write, Classroom. We had one last night on Jamboard. What else, Megan? I know I'm missing. Sheets is coming up on Thursday. So there's lots of information about all those available at our website, tesic.ca.
Throughout the evening, if you have any questions at all, feel free to use the raise hand feature down at the bottom in the toolbar, and we'll get to that. Or you can pop your question in the chat bar. Stacey's going to take the reins on the beginning of the session, and I'll monitor the chat. So I'll make sure we don't miss any of the questions, and then we'll switch, and I'll conclude the end of the session, and Stacey will monitor the chat. But we highly encourage discourse, so please don't feel like you're butting in or talking over us. Let us know if something doesn't make sense or if you want us to re-explain something throughout the session. Sound good? Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera and mic so you can take the reins. Sound good?
All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and present. I'm going to present another meet actually to show a couple things. So just one moment now. Okay. So we have a meet open here, and you can see I'm the only person in this meet right now because down here, there's only one person indicated. So I'm going to mainly be talking about host controls. Just in the middle here, we have our Google Meet kind of toolbar. And obviously, you guys have all figured this out, so we're not going to go into any detail on this. But of course, we do have the microphone and the camera there. You'll notice there are keyboard shortcuts. Some people don't realize that for the microphone and the camera. So Control D can turn your microphone on and off, and Control E can turn your camera on and off. So those can be handy little tricks for that. And I just pressed it, see? And then we also have the raise hand feature there as well. So students can use that to raise their hand in a meet. And then right here where we have the more options, I'm just going to go into there. There are some options here, and some of them, the first two options are also in the activities menu, which Megan is going to go over. But we also have the change layout. So if you are looking to change your layout and see different people on the screen, so right now I have it tiled so I could see kind of up to 49 different people. But if I just wanted to see maybe the presenter or the presentation, I could turn it to spotlight. And if I wanted to see mostly the presenter or the presentation, but with a few people on the side, the most active people in the call, then I could turn it to sidebar. Auto lets Google decide, and Google does a pretty good job actually, depending on what's going on in the call. So we normally don't have to change that up too much, but it is up to you, of course, if you want to change your layout. And then the other, I guess, new feature here that I'm going to go over, new in terms of from, I guess, the last time we were in online learning, is the apply visual effects. So this is also, when you enter a Google Meet, you get that mirror room, and you'll see this sparkle icon there as well. But what it does is it lets you, and my camera's turned off right now, so let me turn that on. Oops. So it lets you pick your background. So if I wanted to blur my background a little bit, there's an option here to do that. If I want to blur it a lot, there's an option here to do that as well. And that can be a great tool for us as teachers. It can also be a great tool to introduce our students to for a little more privacy in the household. And especially if we're taking maybe any like screen captures or anything like that of our students, it can be a great tool to have that or another background on to kind of protect the privacy of their bedrooms and wherever they are. So we have lots of backgrounds now. There's new ones added that I haven't even seen. But we have lots of backgrounds here that we can try out as well. Some of them are, I guess, moving and images, and those can eat up a little more bandwidth. They might slow things down a little bit. So it's just something to be aware of if you're getting a bit of lag, is if you have on some of these kind of more busier backgrounds, that can cause it. But there is the backgrounds and then even the different styles there that you can play with. So is there any question? You can see mine slowing down a bit because I got 2 meets going on. Any questions about that? Okay. So Daphne, when you split your screen, you can only see certain students in tiled view. There's not really a function to see them all because you're making the window smaller, as Megan just said. So you won't be able to see everyone at once, unfortunately, once you split your screen. So next thing we're going to talk about is the host controls. So if we go over to this shield right here, the shield in the bottom right. Now, you're not going to have this in this meet because you are not the host of a meet. So only myself and Megan have it right now. So if you go to these host controls, this is for the hosts in a meet. And if you're going in through Google Classroom for your meet, the hosts are any teachers in the meet. Okay, so any teachers who are on your Google Classroom people page under teachers will join as hosts. Now, if you add a new teacher, you will need to reset your meet link in Google Classroom in order to for the new teacher to have those host privileges. So if you're like having a substitute come in, or maybe you're, I don't know, adding an IRT or a teacher librarian or someone we're collaborating with, it is important to reset that meet link. Okay. So for the host controls, we have a bunch of different options here. So host management lets you restrict what participants can do in the meeting and lets you appoint co-hosts. So that can toggle off. If you toggle that off, it's going to let everyone admit or remove others. It's going to let everyone mute each other, let everyone record the call, control their own mic and camera, present to the call, send chat messages. So you should turn it off only if you're sure everyone in the call will act responsibly. I've never actually turned that off, and I certainly wouldn't do it with a group of students. I would always leave that turned on. Okay. You can also control whether you let everyone share their screen or not. So a lot of teachers will have this kind of toggled off naturally so that students couldn't just automatically present something. But there are absolutely times we want students to be able to present, and it can be certainly helpful to have it on. So it's really up to you and what's happening in the call. But I know the settings in here will apply to breakout rooms when you open them. So sometimes I know teachers who make sure that's turned off just so students couldn't share something. But it depends on the nature of your class, because I know I've also had students share their screens and help each other out in breakout rooms. So it really depends on what's going on and how you manage your class.
Could you just circle where the host button is? Is it the farthest over to the right there?
Oh, yes. So it's this big shield right here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So you can also control whether you can send chat messages or not. Now that's actually, I'll show you where else it is in the chat window. So if you go down here to the chat window, I can toggle that kind of on or off at the time as well, whether I want everyone to send chat messages or not. But that's also available in the host controls. So you know, sometimes you might want the chat open and sometimes you might want it closed for whatever reason. And you can certainly toggle that on or off there.
A common question that I get asked about the chat is, can a teacher mute one individual student from typing in the chat? And the answer is no. You can either enable the chat so that everybody in the call can type into the chat window, or you can toggle it off like Stacey demonstrated. So when it's gray, it's turned off and nobody can type in the chat. So I can do that in our call now. So if you go to the chat now, you won't be able to type into it. And that restricts everybody in the call. So I always compare it to when you're in the physical classroom, you can't mute one individual student from blurting out loud. That's the reality of it. That's when our classroom management strategies come into play. As ideal as it would be, we can't do that. So having those discussions around appropriate use of the class chat, what can we put in it and what should we not put in it? And unfortunately, if we have one or two students that are abusing those privileges, the only real option is to turn the chat off completely to all participants in the call.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a really good point. So when you establish your like class norms in a virtual setting, I always go over that with my class as well. Like, think about what you would say, again, using that example in the physical classroom. Like if I taught grade 6, so they love to just type hi, hi, hi. And I'm like, but in the classroom, would you be shouting out hi, hi, hi while Miss is teaching? Probably not. So we kind of talk about that as well. All right, so returning to the host controls, which again is this shield right here, okay, in the bottom right. So you can also toggle on or off the ability for students to turn on their microphone. Again, this is sometimes some people like, you know, can we do that for one student individually? No, you can make it so nobody can turn on their microphone. Typically, I wouldn't use this a whole lot because, of course, we want that participation. But you can make it so nobody in the call can turn on their microphone. And again, these can be toggled on and off throughout the meet if need be. And you can also make it so nobody in the call can turn on their video. So just be careful for both those, that turning them off might remove people from an outdated Meet app or non-Google Meeting hardware. So be careful with those. Typically, I wouldn't really use them, but they are options there. Okay. And then for breakout room controls, so when host management is on, breakout rooms, which Megan's going to go over, they will start with the same host settings that are in here. So if you have it, for example, so everyone can share their screen here, then everyone will be able to when you open a breakout room. But if you have it so not everyone can share their screen here, then not everyone will be able to, then people won't be able to share their screen in a breakout room. Okay. But that being said, once you open those breakout rooms, this won't control that. You would have to go into each of the breakout rooms and change those settings individually. Okay, because then a new meet has been created. And then lastly, we have quick access. So when turned off, everyone who isn't invited must ask to join, including people in your organization. So right now, everyone who's invited into the call could get in, no problem. And in a classroom, everyone who's invited, everyone on the class roster in Google Classroom is going to be able to get in. But if you turn this off, then everyone who isn't invited, so who's outside, like say you have someone who's outside of your organization or in your organization, they're not going to be able to get in without knocking. Okay. So, but everyone in the classroom is still going to be able to get in. So, and then if you go down here to view all host settings, the same settings are there as well. Okay. And then you can also see in those settings, if you need to do something to adjust your video lighting, your camera, your audio, that is all there as well. So I'm just going to switch over and present this Meet to show you a couple settings in terms of when people are in the call. I would typically have the quick access turned on because, Megan, what are your thoughts on that? This has changed recently, so I want to make sure I'm giving accurate information.
Right. So when you're in a Google Classroom Meet, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
When you're joining from your Google Classroom, everybody on your people page, so all of your students, all of your co-teachers, once you're present in the call, all of your students will be able to join. In this kind of Meet, we started this link through a Google Calendar event. We left quick access turned on because you were all invited to come this evening. You all accessed the Meet link through an email, so we knew who we were inviting. And we know that anybody under the NLESD domain, we're welcoming in here. The only thing is where this link was started under quick access, if someone was to join from the French school district or another associate member, say from a MUN account, they would have to knock and we would have to permit them to come in. You don't have to worry too much about that when you're going through your Google Classroom, because only the people on your people page of your classroom can come in. Anybody outside of your Google Classroom, anybody who's not on that people page, even if they have an NLESD email address or from a different district, the CSFP, they would have to knock to get in. So say if Stacey was teaching a class to her students and I was coming in as a guest speaker, I would still have to ask permission to join her call if she shared a Google Classroom link with me. And so those are some security settings that are new within the last year, because I know last February when we went online, we had a few teachers that had mentioned that there were, I guess, surprise guests where her friends would share the classroom link with friends from outside of their class or friends from another school. And because they had the same domain, the same NLESD address, they could go on into that Google Classroom Meet. But that has changed this year. So only those who appear on, and that's Stacey's showing now, the people page in your Google Classroom can join the Google Meet once you click on the link.
And yeah, and now regardless of if quick access is on or off, anyone on this page in a Google Classroom Meet is still going to be able to join. Okay.
Yeah.
So Google Classroom Meets are pretty secure. So it doesn't super matter if that's on or off in terms of people in your class being able to join, because they're going to be able to. So this is the people page. So everyone here will be able to join, and everyone who's a teacher up here will have those host privileges when they join. But again, in order to make sure that once you've added someone, they have those host privileges, I need to come over to the stream. And now I haven't generated this link yet, so I'm going to go ahead and generate the link for the first time. So some people ask, like, do I need to toggle this on or off? And that is a personal preference. As long as you are ending the call, so when you click the red button, you end the call, not just leave the call, but end it, the red hang up button, then you are going to make it so students will not be able to join without a teacher present. Okay. So that can stay on. You know, if you'd like to toggle it off, you can certainly do that as well. But I'm going to go ahead and save that. So if I was to now go and add a new teacher to my classroom, so say I was to go add Melissa. And in order to make sure that when Melissa joined this classroom meet, she has full host privileges, she can, go ahead and start the meet. She'll be able to do breakout rooms, polls, everything. I'm going to need to come over here to meet, press these 3 vertical dots. I'm going to go manage. Okay. And then if I click this drop down menu, It's going to give me the option to copy, reset, or remove. I'm going to reset that Meet link, and it's going to replace the current link with a new Classroom Meet. And I'm going to go ahead and reset. And now Melissa's going to have those host privileges. So it's important anytime we add a new teacher to do that. So is there any questions there? Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and present this Meet we're in just to show you a few features with the people in the Meet that you can use. And you're going to see a window and a window and a window and a window. It's called an infinity window because I'm presenting a Meet that I'm presenting in a Meet I'm in. So, all right. So if we go over to the side here, you see the meeting details, which just has, you know, if I put in any attachments or anything, it'd be there. But then you have the people tab, which will have a little number there showing you exactly how many people are in the call. From here, you can mute everyone. So if someone wants to go ahead and turn on their mic for me, then I can show you how you can mute kind of everyone. Okay, so I'll have the option now to mute all. So I can mute everyone at once here, okay? And, but you will be able, unless I toggle this off, then you will be able to reopen your mic, okay? But if just one person had their mic on, so if someone wants to go ahead and turn on the mic again, perfect, Leona, I can mute just Leona here, okay? So it'll give me the option to mute Leona for everyone in the call, and then only Leona will be able to unmute themselves, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and mute Leona, okay? I can also here, I have these 3 dots next to someone's name. So I can pin them to my screen, so they're kind of the only thing on my screen, okay? Or I can unpin them. And I also have the option to add them as a co-host, okay, if I needed to do that. And I can remove them from the call. Now, once you remove someone from a call 3 times, they will not be able to get back into this Meet link. So the Meet link would have to be reset. So if they're removed 3 times, then they won't be able to rejoin until the Meet link is reset.
Stacey, would you like me to try to join the call from outside so we can see what that looks like?
That would be excellent.
All right.
Okay. And up here, I also have access to those host controls again. So it's easy access there for the kind of 4 basic ones. And you will see it's telling me that someone wants to join this call, Miss Yellow, and it's unverified. So this isn't someone who was invited to the Meet. In Google Classroom, this wouldn't be someone who's on my people page. This is someone from outside that. So unless I recognize the name or know that I'm expecting someone, I would go ahead and deny entry, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and click deny entry. And then it'll say Miss Yellow was not allowed to join this Meet. Okay, so that's called knocking, I guess. And unless you recognize the name, I would go ahead and deny entry. And sometimes we do get students who they might be logged into maybe a tablet or a machine, and it's recognizing maybe their parents' Google account, and they're trying to get in. But it's always good to advise them to try and sign in with their NLESD account. But unless you're pretty sure who that is, I'd go ahead and deny entry.
And like Stacey said, they can only ask 3 times.
Yes.
And then after they ask the 3rd time, they can't ask anymore. Which I suppose if someone is trying to get in over and over and over again, that can be annoying. But it's good to know that after the 3rd time of the same user trying to get in, they won't be able to try anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And then just one last thing, then I'll turn it over to Megan. Just because this question's been coming up a lot of people are saying, my students are there right away when I join the call. But this page your students get says, if you're not, or if a teacher is not in the room yet, says basically they need to wait for the host to arrive. So they can't get in the call yet. They need to wait for the host to arrive. As soon as you press join, you're going to go to that mirror room where you get to see yourself and that kind of thing. But the students can go, who are waiting will go right into the call. So even though it looks like maybe they were all there, they've probably only been there a few seconds, depending on how long you were in that mirror room. And then they get in right away. So they can't get in there unless a teacher is present. All right.
And that goes for any teacher on your people page. So Google Classroom has no idea who the main teacher is and who the RT support is and who the reading specialist is. So even if you were the one to create the Google Classroom and you added other teachers after the fact, Google treats all of those teachers on the people page the same, as long as that, like Stacey mentioned earlier, if you have to, after you add a co-teacher, reset the Meet link, but then everybody has the same host controls. So as soon as any teacher from that Google Classroom clicks the join button on the stream page, students will be allowed in.
And Leona, to answer your question, if another teacher ends the call by accident, yes, all the kids will have to sign back in. They will be booted from the call. So if you're in a position where you're just like popping into classes, make sure you don't actually hit that end call button.
Leave call if you are joining just for a moment. End call if you want to shut down the call entirely. Or you can be like me yesterday and I accidentally closed every single tab and that I had open and had to go back and open every tab again and came in. My kids were like, where'd you go? It happens, but I accidentally X'd out the window. I didn't shut down the call. So they all stayed there without me. Luckily, I was really quick and opened up a Meet really fast. But if you just accidentally close it, it's like you walking out of the room. Leave call is just you leaving the classroom. Ending the call shuts everything down and makes the students leave the call. So those two act very differently. Accidentally. Yeah, it was just a little brain break, Elizabeth.
Yeah. I have a question. So the only way to end the call is if you are clicking on the telephone button on the bottom there, right? Like if you just click the X up top where in the tab that says Meet, that's not ending it, is it?
No, and that's what I did yesterday by accident. I was going to a new tab and by accident I X'd out of it. That didn't end the call. I just left it. So,
so that'll just leave the call. So students will still be left, if there were any students there, in the room. So you want to make sure that when your Meet is done, you click end call by clicking the red button and then end the call.
On the bottom of the screen, okay.
Yeah, and you'll only get the option to end call if you're a host. So if myself or Stacey clicked on the red phone button at the bottom now, you get like a little pop-up window, and then there's two buttons on that little pop-up. One is leave call, one is end call. So if I was popping in, perhaps I was a reading specialist, I'm just popping in to see my class, maybe I want to read them a story or just check in, and then I'm going to pop back out again, but Stacey's going to keep teaching. I would click on leave call. But if it's the end of the period and it's time to go, and I want to make sure that all of the students are out of the Meet before I leave, there we go, you would click on end call. But you only get this option if you're a host. So for now, you folks as participants, if you click the red phone button on the bottom, you would just leave the call. Only the host have the ability to shut it down.
I'm host. I'm an IRT, so I'm popping in and out of a lot, and I don't want to end the call accidentally.
That's right. Yeah, you want to leave call, not end call.
Right.
Yeah. So just leave the call right here. So when you use a Meet through Calendar and you've clicked host control so no one can enter before you, are they in a waiting room or can they just not access?
If you made a calendar event, so say you're doing this for a staff meeting or a grade level meeting or a teacher family interview or what have you, and you're scheduling a Meet for down the road, so you create one in Google Calendar. Staff meeting mostly, So if you turn off, so that would be quick access. So you'd have to turn off quick access, and then you get a screen that's kind of, if they click on the link, they get a screen that's kind of black. And there's like, I think a little swirly going around. It said the host has not yet begun the call or something to that respect. I can't remember the exact wording, but if you turn that off so that nobody can join, because essentially if you open it for all of NLESD, then if, other teachers could click on the call and join ahead of time. If you don't want anybody to join, say a staff meeting or whatnot, before you're ready for it and you turn that off, they'll get like a waiting screen. The host has not yet started the meeting, I think is what it says. But then they also have the knock and you have to click the admit. If you have a lot of folks joining at once, and you get that pop-up with the admit or deny entry, you can group admit. It'll give you an option. It'll have everybody who has knocked, and you can admit a bunch of people at once as well. Yeah. Oh, perfect. Yeah. So you're not like admit. Yeah, you can group admit people too if there's a lot of people waiting to get in. Cool.
Awesome.
Are those all the host controls, I think?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go to the activities menu. Before we do that, is there anything that needs to be clarified? I know our host controls are kind of all over the place. They're in the bottom right-hand corner where the shield is, but you can also access them in the people tab and the chat. They're a little bit all over, but it's also kind of convenient because when we need to turn off the chat, we can do that from within the chat. When we need to mute a participant, we can do that from the people page. You don't always have to be going back down to the right-hand corner where the shield is to access those controls.
Oh, I should mention too as well, you can do it in terms of removing or muting. You can do it by hovering over someone's face as well.
Oh, that's, yeah. So if you had your tiled view on and you could see all of your students, I do that occasionally. I might set a task for my students. They might be working away and a student, or there might be a conversation and a student forgets to mute their mic and they're calling out to mom or they're talking to their pet or what have you, and there might be some background noise. You can hover your mouse over their icon as a host and you can mute their mic. So Leona, if you want to unmute your mic, we'll use you as an example again.
I'll do it.
There you go.
So I can go ahead and press mute, and then it'll tell me I'm muting Leona for everyone in the call. And then I can go ahead and do that. I can also remove. So if heaven forbid something came on the screen that was really inappropriate really quickly, I can hover over and remove, which I'm not going to press, of course, but I could click there and remove someone immediately. And then I can also pin them. So if I had maybe a student trying to hold up something for me to see and I want to make it bigger real quick, I could go ahead and pin, and then I'm going to be able to see that student bigger really quickly. So that can be really handy as well.
Yeah, and if you did click on the remove button, we suggest you do that as a last resort, because if you remove a student from the call, they won't be able to join back. So say if you want to be like, hey, this is not appropriate right now, I'm going to get you to join back in 10 minutes, go take a break. It doesn't work that way. Removing them from the Meet link removes them permanently from that link. So you're booting them out of class, they're gone then. They're not coming back. You might have to go reset the Meet link in your Google Meet. So that remove is really like last resort kind of deal. Yeah, it's permanent. Yeah.
I always compare, if you wanted to just kind of like maybe move a student to a place where you could chat to them in a minute, you might want to do that to a breakout room, which Megan will go over. But removing them is kind of like you're gone.
Yeah.
And to answer the question in the chat, do students receive a notification when you mute them? Yes, they will. So it will come up in the corner down here for them that Stacey Hopkins has muted you.
And you'll notice your mic icon. If your mic is on, down in the toolbar, your mic button is gray. But if you click on it and mute yourself, it turns red. So when the host mutes you, your button will change color as well. So there are some visual cues that your mic is turned off.
So the pinning, no, so it's not going to pin the person for everyone, just for you. That's a great question. So if you're doing something like show and share, it can be helpful to maybe go and show students the change layout and have them change it to spotlight or sidebar, and kind of show them how to do that, so that it'll be bigger.
Yeah, I always walk my students through how to change their layout if we have a guest presenter or if one of our students is doing a show and share. A lot of students, usually they figure out those settings on their own. They figure out how to change their background. They figure out how to change the layout just by clicking and trying things out. But it's always great to show them how to pin or how to change their layout so that they can see. And oftentimes if a student tells you, Miss, I can't see this, chances are their layout is not conducive to whatever you are doing. Yeah. Or they have somebody else pinned and the person who is pinned is not the speaker, but that's all they're seeing. So whenever a student says, I can't see what's going on, double check that they haven't pinned someone by accident and double check that they have an appropriate layout. So if I could pin Stacey right now if she's presenting, but then if Leona starts to talk, Google's still going to spotlight Stacey because I have her pinned. So it's not going to switch back and forth. If you have someone pinned, they are going to stay at the front of the presentation always until you unpin them.
Yeah, my daughter's in grade 1 and I was listening on her her class today. And one of the kids was saying, Miss, I can only see so-and-so. Say, I can only see Olivia, and couldn't see what the teacher was presenting. And that was why they had pinned someone by accident.
Roxanne, I see your question in the chat. You have grade 3 students that are knocking to enter the classroom. So this can be a tricky thing to teach families at home. Sometimes, obviously, they have the link. So if they're able to get into their classroom, they're logged into their Google account. But sometimes in a Chrome browser specifically, you can log into your Google account by clicking on the waffle in the corner, going to account, or clicking on the blue sign-in button. But if you look up further in your window, you can also log into the browser or the window itself, and that's how you can access Chrome extensions. So if there's another Google user in their household who is logged into the Chrome browser, Google might pick that up, and when they go click on their Meet link, it might recognize the Google account that is associated with the Chrome browser, and it might look like they're joining through a parent or guardian's email address. And we actually had this discussion last week at our Google Workspace Q&A. It's difficult to explain that to a family member. You could mention them if they do have a Google account to make sure they're logged out of the browser. Stacey, I don't know if you want to present your screen so you can show where your icon is up in the browser. But like I said, it's a little bit confusing that way. If you know for sure who is logging in and you're comfortable admitting them, I mean, you can do that. But if you're not comfortable doing that and you want to give your families a reminder, it's up in the top right. You can see Stacey's profile twice. One is down on the screen next to Waffle, where we always see our profile, but one is up next to her extensions. And that's because she's logged into the window, the browser itself. And that's how we access our Chrome extensions. If we're not logged into the browser, we won't be able to access our Chrome extensions like Read and Write or Screencastify or any other extensions you might have added to your account. So you would have to let the guardian know that if they see a different profile picture up in the top of the Chrome browser, then they have to log out of there.
So they can add their child's profile here as well.
Yeah. Yes, they could add their child's profile there and then just
click on their name.
Yeah. But to someone who might not understand that, who might have a Google account but not really understand what a profile is as opposed to an account, that can be tangly to explain to someone.
Yeah.
But if you want to keep those keywords and do maybe a bit of Googling after, you might be able to find a support page. But your profile is when you're logged into the entire browser. And then your Google account, of course, gives you access to all the different Google apps like Docs and Slides and Classroom and Drive and all those things, if that makes sense. I don't know if that was explained clearly.
But personally, if you do recognize them and you feel it's safe, I would probably just allow them to join as long as you recognize that name kind of every day.
That's right. Yeah.
So some of my students forget to leave the call. They leave their computer, but don't leave the meet. That happens at my school a lot as well. So as long as you press end call, then they'll be booted. When they come back to their computer, it's just going to say the host has ended the call.
Yeah, and the Google Meet tab is still open. Yeah. But the video's not there anymore. It goes to a white screen. And like Stacey said, it says the call has been ended.
Yeah.
So always best practice, press end call. If it's the end of the period, the end of the class, you are the host, press end call.
Yeah, but I tell you what's happening with me is that I teach a bunch of different classes and I share the one link for K to 6. So I share the one link. Yeah. So as I'm leaving, as one class is finished, another class is coming in. And some kids like to hang out sometimes to another class, or they leave their room and forget to turn off their computer. So my question is, if I delete them, are they able to join the next day with the same link?
So yes, in that situation, yes, go ahead and remove them from the call. That's totally fine.
But that's strike one, is it really?
No, there's no real strike system to it. Best practice is if you have to remove some students from the call at the end of the school day, say school day is over at 3:00, just go into your classroom and reset your meet link so it's fresh for the next day.
Because if you were to remove them 3 times from the same link, then yes,
right. That's what I meant.
Okay, yeah, but you would reset the link at the end of the day. Yeah, you're fine. It's a brand new link the next day. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So they're all that's happened a couple of times with me, especially where I have back-to-back classes.
Yeah.
And I've got someone to stay, which is great, but I could have kindergarten in a grade 6 class.
Yeah.
So, and they're having trouble. They're having trouble to leave the meet.
Yeah. So I just make sure, that you're resetting your link each day.
Thank you.
Leona, to answer your question, end call will end breakout rooms as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely everything. Yeah. All righty. So I'll go ahead and present my screen now. And we are going to go ahead and have a look at the activities menu. I'm going to turn on, I'll leave, Stacey, you're recording, so it'll be from your view. So whatever's best, but we are going to get that infinity screen because I'm sharing my screen. So I suppose I'll leave my camera on so we can see me talking, just in case that helps anybody understanding what I'm saying. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and present my window, I think is best. All right. Give that a second. Yay for Google Meet infinity screens. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at the activities menu, and that's located down in the bottom right here, just down underneath, down where the chat is to. Right next to the chat is the activities. We have a triangle, square, circle icon. And if we click here, we have 5 different activities that we can use in Google Meet. The very first one here is Breakout Rooms. So from a teacher's perspective, when you click on Breakout Rooms, you get a list of everybody that is in your call. Then you want to go ahead and click on the pencil icon to get editing those breakout rooms and set them up. Now, it is important to keep in mind that this will take a little bit of setup. So I personally, if I'm going to do breakout rooms, sometimes I save that activity. Now I teach elementary, so we have a little recess break in the middle of our online session. So sometimes I'll use the recess break while they go and get a stretch and get a glass of water. I'll set up our breakout rooms. Or I'll assign them a task to do, and while they're doing their task, I'll go do breakout rooms. But it's just good to keep in mind that this is not something you can preset. You do it once all the participants are in the call, so you may need a minute or 2 to get everybody in the right group. So when I click on the pencil, it's going to open up all the editing features that I have for breakouts. Google is going to go ahead and guess how many rooms I want. So this 5 is totally random. It depends on the size of your call. If you had a smaller group, then it wouldn't break them all. Say you had 7 kids, it's not going to make 5 breakout rooms by default. It might make 2. So this is just a random number that I can backspace and change. And then it'll automatically change the number of breakout rooms. I can also click the up arrow and add more rooms, or the down arrow and take away to make less rooms. So this is how I control my groups. Next to that, I have a timer. So if I click on that, I'm going to get a pop-up and I can check this box. And if I tell my students, okay, we're going to go in groups of 4, we're going to work on this task. Maybe it's in Google Classroom, or maybe I'm going to share a link with them. And I'm going to ask everybody's going to come back in 15 minutes. Well, this will set it so that in 15 minutes, they'll get a little alarm, a little beep, and it'll count down for them, let them know that their groups are about to end. So this is a great way. I don't have any stragglers in my breakout rooms. I don't have to force to close them. In 15 minutes, everybody's going to get forced back into the main call. So this is a great feature to share with our students for time management. Just let them know and just give them a heads up of how much time they have left. They'll have a little timer up in their breakout room. If I want to do random grouping, I can click on the shuffle button and I can shuffle as many times as I want until I see a good configuration of my students. If I don't like what I have and I want to start all over again, I can click on clear, and it's going to bring everybody back into the main call. And then I would have to start from scratch, putting everybody back into rooms. So if I shuffle again, that's going to put random grouping of people into the rooms. If you wanted to, just for your own classroom management, students won't see this. But if I already have, say, reading groups or that I have established for my literacy block in my classroom, and I already have those groups named, I could type in those names here. Just for my own personal organization, when I'm sorting my students won't see what you call the groups. If I want to move someone, say, oh, I think Stacey will do better in breakout room 2, I can click on her profile and click and drag and drop and just pop her into the next group. I can also X them out. If I click the X by the person's name, this will automatically put them back up in the main call. But if I want to bring them back, I can click and drag, or I can click down here and you'll see my cursor shows up. I can start typing and that'll show that'll show that profile. And when I click on it, they'll join the group that way as well. So I can click and drag, or I can click so that my cursor shows up and start typing that student's name. So those are some ways that you can rearrange. I think that's about it for customizing. So I'm going to put us in, I'll put us in some bigger group. There we go. So I'm going to shuffle again. So we're there. There we go. 7's too many. I'm going to do 5 groups. There we go. So I got everybody shuffled into 5 groups. I'm going to go ahead and open the room now. I'm going to change the timer to just 1 minute because I don't want to leave you folks in there too long. But I'm going to shuffle you in you're in your groups. I'm going to put you in there for 1 minute just so that you can experience the countdown from a student's perspective. When it gets to 30 seconds, I believe, is when the little bell rings. If you haven't done this yet, I would let students know. It kind of sounds like the emergency alert that you get on your cell phone sometimes. So it might be a little triggering or a little worrisome to a student who doesn't know that this little bell is going to ring. So now you'll be able to experience it so that you know what it sounds like. And I also want you, actually, I'm going to put you in there for 2 minutes because I want you to try the Ask for Help feature. So when you are in there, I want you to look around and find the Ask for Help button. And I want one person from your group to click on Ask for Help. And I'm going to pop in just to show you when you ask for help on the teacher's end, you will get a notification that Breakout Group 2 has asked for help. I'll get a little notification on my sidebar. And then I, from my view, will get a join button. next to the group. I'm going to go ahead and open the rooms now, and you can have a look at those features, and then we'll just wait 2 minutes so that you can hear the little alarm, and then we'll all come back into the main call and look at the other features. Okay, so we're back in the main call now. The little beep for me wasn't too loud, but I have had students before kind of get startled by the fact that their breakout room beeped at them when it was about to end. So anyone who might be afraid of like the fire alarm at school or any kind of alarm noises or sounds like that, it's always good to just give them a heads up that the breakout room is going to beep when it's ending.
And Megan, just to clarify, they will see the name of what you've called that breakout group.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good to know.
When I was in green group, I saw that. So
is it you were the green group?
Yeah, it says.
Oh, okay. So I stand corrected. They will know what group you named them. Okay, good to know. I'm learning something new as well. I'm going to go ahead and present my screen again, because when you go to a breakout room, whatever you're presenting in the main call stops. If you join one of the breakout rooms, if I stayed in the main call the whole time, then my presentation would stay. But as soon as I leave the main call, my presentation ends as well. So I'm going to quickly go through the other activities. So the next one is polls. When you click on polls, all you have to do is click on start a poll to launch it. This is a way that you can ask a question to your class if you want to survey them on something. A really great example would be to do an exit card. So how are you feeling after this lesson on a scale of 1 to 4? Or if you're doing, I know some people are doing data management right now in math. If you want to do a quick poll and talk about collecting firsthand data, things like that can be really handy here. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop in a question. And right now you won't be able to see it until I get it all set up. Now, something neat about the polls is that you can set this up. Unlike breakout rooms, you can have this set up. So if you open your Meet a few minutes early, or enough. I know if we open it a few minutes before class, students are probably going to start arriving. But if you open up a few minutes early, you could take a moment then to set up your poll, and you could save it and launch it later on in that period. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the question that I just created. So now for you, you should be able to see from the activities menu that a poll has been started. So you go down to the square, triangle, and circle. You'll be able to open that poll and vote on it. And I can see that my poll is active right here. I have a live button up in the top here, so it's active. Right now, I'm not showing you folks the results. Of course, you can see them because I'm sharing my screen. But if I toggle this on from your view now, not from my presentation, you should be able to see the number of votes from the poll. So as a teacher, if you want to do this as a quick little exit card and it's not important for students to see the results of the poll, of course, you can keep that off. But if you're doing this more for student interest or say a math activity, you can turn it on and students can see each other's votes. However, they can't see who voted for what. They'll just see the numbers. I can go ahead and end the poll. And from there, I will keep all the data, but nobody else can vote on it. I can delete it if I don't need it. And I can also go down here and create another poll. Because you're the host of your call, at the end of the call, as part of host controls, you get an attendance report. If you launch a poll, you'll also get a poll report, and you'll get all the results of the poll that you launched in that Google Meet. So if you wanted that data for later, no need to take a screenshot. You will get emailed that information. So that's our polls feature.
And you'll see exactly who voted what as well, which you can't see in Meet. So if you were doing it as like a formative assessment, but you really wanted to see maybe who wasn't understanding something, you'll be able to see that in the report you get.
Right, because right now I know 9 people voted for summer, but I have no idea who voted. But after in the report, you will be able to see that. So that information is shared, which is good. Another feature is Q&A. This is not Q&A. We think of like a discourse. So I ask a question, you answer it, but it's not like our chat where there's going to be dialogue going on. If I turn on Q&A, that's it. It's turned on now. But what it does, it's more so a repository for asking questions. So if I turn on the Q&A, you'll then be able to go in and ask a question. But there we go. A new question was posted in Q&A. So for me, it's more so the way for the teacher to bank questions to address when appropriate. There you go. Why would I use this instead of a chat? So a chat is more so conversation. It's fluid. It's ongoing. But if I'm trying to instruct something and show something, sometimes things in chat can get lost if there's a lot of conversation. In the Q&A, I get a record of all the questions asked. I can make it invisible or hidden so that my students can't see that question asked. If maybe it's inappropriate or what have you, I can hide it. I can click the check mark if I've addressed that question. So again, I don't type an answer. I would address it out loud. I can delete that question once I've answered it. And if you agree with this question, you'll notice that when you go into it, you can actually upvote Stacey's question by clicking on the thumbs up. And if I see that a particular question has a lot of upvotes, then I know that there are a lot of students wondering that same thing. So if you want to go in and just ask some random questions so we can see how the Q&A feature kind of banks the questions that are being asked, that would be super. All you have to do is go over to the activities menu, open that up, open up Q&A, and you'll be able to type in your questions. And I can as well, which is funny. I can ask one to myself. There you go. Yeah. So see, it's just gonna pop up one after the other, and they're gonna show up chronologically here unless I want to sort them. So I can also show all questions, unanswered questions, answered questions or hidden questions so that I can manage them, the ones I've answered, the ones I've not yet, and the ones that I've hidden from view. I can also sort them from oldest first, newest first, and most popular, which is convenient. And the most popular would be the question that has the most upvotes. If I want to turn off the Q&A, it's just a matter of toggling it off, and then no one else can ask a question in the Q&A. So it's not for discourse within it. It's just a way to bank questions, maybe during a presentation or instruction, so that you can come back to them later. But when you address them, you would address them out loud. Does that make sense? Any questions on Q&A? Any questions for the questions? No? All right, so that's breakout rooms, polls, and Q&A. The next one would be recording, and that's what we're doing this evening. I'm not going to get into too much detail on that because it's not advised that we record Google Meets with our students because it has their faces next to their name in their tile. We're also learning from home, so we can see backgrounds. We could have family members walking by if students have their video on. So it's not advised that you record a classroom session the same as you wouldn't set up a video camera in your physical classroom and record it. Of course, if you are to record a session for whatever purpose, you have to make sure that you have everyone's permission and that you announce, of course, ahead of time, like we did in advertising for this session, that the session will be recorded so that everybody is advised of that. And the final one there is whiteboarding. And what that does is allows you to open a Google Jamboard right in the Meet. So if you have a Google Jamboard kind of templated, done up that you want to share, you can choose one from your Google Drive, or you can click on Start New Whiteboard. There we go. And I'm going to get a pop-up with everybody in the call, and I can either allow you to view it. So if I wanted to demonstrate a concept and I just want you to see what I'm doing, I could do view. But if I wanted students to collaborate on something, I could give edit access. So I'm going to go ahead and send that now so that you can see what it looks like. It's going to open, you're going to get a link in your chat that you can click on. And you should be able to go right into Jamboard. It doesn't create a copy for each student. In this situation, it would just create one Google Jamboard for the entire class. So you can go ahead and add sticky notes, add text, what have you. And then, of course, I can change the sharing settings to view only afterwards if I want students to stop editing. And for anybody who hasn't used Jamboard yet, it's a wicked tool. And we actually had a session on it yesterday evening. So if you go to TESIC's Twitter page, we recently shared some resources on Jamboard. But it's a great tool for collaboration, for brainstorms, things like that. So that's all that whiteboarding does. But of course, if you had a Google Jamboard open in a tab in your Chrome browser, you could also just get the sharing link, pop it in the chat, and then present your screen as well. So just whatever you're more comfortable with, but you can access it both ways. So I'm just going to minimize that there. And that's all we have in our activities. I got to say, probably the most common that I use in my activities menu is breakout rooms. Almost every time we meet, we do some small group work. It's very convenient for literacy blocks, for group work. If you want to take a student aside and help them a little bit one-on-one while other students are working, it's great for small group meetings. And that is it in our activities. And I know we've gone over just a couple of minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you to everybody now. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Like I said, we're teaching all day too. After all day and coming here this evening and be like, yep, I'm going to learn some more so I can do better this week. I mean, you all deserve a round of applause, a pat on the back for continuing your own learning. We love having you participate in TESIC events. I'm going to get Stacey to throw the feedback form in the chat, but we're also going to email that out later as well if you don't get a chance right now. But we'd love to hear your feedback for any future sessions. We do have our virtual PL series on the go. So if you want to check out tesic.ca, TESIC.ca, we have a few more sessions coming up later this week and next week. But thank you so much for joining. We're going to go ahead and stop recording now. But if you have any more questions, you're welcome to stick around, and we'll do our best to answer those.